The following program is brought to you by PodcastOne Sportsnet.
This episode of the Steve Austin Show is sponsored in part by DDP Yoga. Hey man, working countless matches over the years, it ain't no surprise that my body has taken its share of bumps and bruises. And turns out my buddy Diamond Dallas Page knows all about the wear and tear the ring takes on your body, and his DDP Yoga fitness system was specifically designed to burn fat, reduce pain, and heal from injuries. Dallas is so positive that you'll absolutely love the DDPY program and using the DDPY app that he's doing something he ain't never done before. He's going to give you 7 days free to try it out. That's a week to try the program, explore the app, and own your life, and it's completely free. DDP Yoga can work for all ages, weights, and fitness levels. It's a kick-ass cardio workout that will dramatically increase your flexibility and strengthen your core like never before, all with minimal joint impact. Just for listeners of the Steve Austin Show, you can save 20% off an annual membership for the DDP Yoga Now app off any DVD pack. Just go to ddpyoga.com/Austin to get started. And check this out. DDP is headed back to the UK. Is putting on another DDPY Inspiration Meets Perspiration workshop for one night only. Thursday, April 19th at Frome Sport and Fitness in Somerset, England. Come on over to this incredible 3-hour workshop where you'll get to meet DDP, get a kick-ass workout, and hear DDP's secrets to staying motivated. Get your workshop tickets at ddpyogaworkshops.com. If you can't make the workshop, don't worry. You can still catch DDP in person at the Wales Comic-Con April 21st and April 22nd. Details and tickets are at walescomiccon.com.
The following program is a PodcastOne.com production. From Hollywood, California, by way of the Broken Skull Ranch, this is the Steve Austin Show.
Give me a hell yeah.
Hell yeah! Now, here's Steve Austin.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Steve Austin Show. I am coming to you from the mean streets of Los Angeles, California today. I'm sitting over here at 317 Gimmick Street, got my podcast table going, laptop, computer, Zoom, H4n, rolling sound. Here we go. Got a damn good show for you, man. I had a good time talking to this guy. I got a phone call. I got a text message the other day from PJ Polaco, also known as Just Incredible. You know him from back in the days at WWF and really a lot down there at ECW. And PJ was always one hell of a worker. And he gave me a lot of my material early in my Stone Cold days to help that character get over. Whether it was working a few angles with him inside the ring, cutting promos, or getting a chance to do some color commentary, he was a vital part of the beginnings of the Stone Cold character. I've always gotten along real well with PJ. We didn't really run in the same circles, but we were always on the same page with respect to the business. He's a good dude. He's a hell of a worker. And, you know, a couple of years ago, he came on the podcast and talked about some of his demons that he picked up along the way, going down the road of the business of professional wrestling and life in general. And it turns out PJ is right now still in the process of making a documentary about his struggles with his addictions, overcoming those, having a relapse, kicking out. And the conversation we're about to have is just shooting a breeze, catching up, talking about that relapse, talking what it took for him to get clean, and just talking about the business of pro wrestling in general. I always like talking to PJ. He's a fun guy to talk to. He's got a very interesting story. I'm looking forward to the credible documentary that they're about to come out with. We're going to get into that and shoot the breeze. Whole lot of fun catching up with PJ and talking about some serious stuff in the process. Man, the dude has really been in some precarious positions as far as, you know, some of his personal habits that he picked up. And we're going to talk about that. But before we get to PJ, God dang it, man, I tell you what, I had such a blast over the last week. We flew my nephew Neil down and my two nieces, Emma and Brandy. We flew them down to Los Angeles, and then we headed down to Nevada. Went down to stay a couple of days over there, and we wanted to stay in Nevada a little bit longer than we did. Turns out, man, I'm really having to get used to the weather up there in northern Nevada because that snow is a sumbitch. And, man, it was fixing to come snowing down, and my wife gets nervous as a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chair when we got to go down that 395 to go through Mammoth and Bridgeport, all those little towns, get ice and snow on the road. We ain't got no chains for our vehicles. Anyway, we had a blast up in Nevada. But the good part happened when we got back to the mean streets of Los Angeles, because me and my nephew Neil had been planning on going to the golf course. But due to the fact that we were trying to show them Nevada, we didn't get a chance to get out on the course. So I'll tell you what, man, me and my nephew Neil got in my Yukon XL and headed down to the LBC to go to the Hoonigan shop over there. And turns out those guys were out filming, but he wanted to go so bad we tried to make it over there, and no one was there. We got turned away, and we decided to head over to Iron Addict's gym, C.T. Fletcher's gym. Well, C.T. Fletcher wasn't there. He's waiting on a heart to get that heart transplant. And C.T., if you listen to the podcast, man, keep hanging tough. I hope everything goes your way. I hope you get a heart, and I hope everything goes well with you. And I hope one of these days I'm cruising up to the LBC in my 1974 Camaro Z28. We ride around, and you show me the sights and sounds and the scenes of where you grew up. So CT wasn't there. We shot the breeze, took a couple of pictures in the gym. It's a badass gym over there. And then on the way back, we said, hey, man, there's a driving range, a dedicated driving range. There wasn't no golf course. It was just a driving range, one of them kinds with the upper deck and a lower deck. So I said, shit, we're here. Let's go ahead and knock the hell out of some golf balls. I ain't hit a golf ball in probably 10 years. And probably if you counted up all the times I've been to a driving range, I probably hit about, 20 buckets of balls in my entire life. I've probably played maybe 10 complete, I don't even know if I've played 10 complete games of golf. So I am a complete effing rookie when it comes down to golf and swinging a club. So anyway, we get to LBC, to the driving range there, and of course we get out, and the dude shows up and he goes, it was almost like going to Wally World. And the Moose told Clark W. Griswold and his whole family that the park was shut down for maintenance. Turns out they were doing some maintenance on the goddamn golf driving range, and so we got rejected yet again. And I said, well, son of a bitch, man, are we going to get rejected every time we try to do something? This is flat out ridiculous. I'm on my own turf, the mean streets of Los Angeles and the surrounding areas, and we ain't getting in nowhere. So finally, we went down to a little golf course not too far from the house, and lo and behold, the driving range was open. I ain't got no clubs. Neil didn't bring his clubs from Edna because it's too much of a pain in the ass to put those things on an airplane. So went down, got a couple of buckets of balls. We borrowed some clubs. He borrowed a couple of irons. All I had was a driver. My specialty is just driving, and I really don't have a specialty because I suck really, really bad. We went out there, man. You go out there and you kind of get, I don't really give a damn, so I don't get intimidated, but you see some people out there with some really good swings, some really good techniques, just really knocking that ball straight and far and doing everything they want with whatever club that they're using. Guys out there working on their game. And, of course, the golf course is right there next by, and so they're playing golf as well. But me, I'm just trying to get back into the swing of things, no pun intended, just by swinging that driver. So anyway, man, holy cow. My nephew Neil was knocking the hell out of that ball. They were going straight, far, different irons, using the different clubs. He's really a damn good golfer, and it was really fun to sit there and hang out with him. Meanwhile, over on my little section of the driving range, I had that damn driver. I loosened up a little bit, swung around the hips, got my abdominal muscles loose, got my shoulders loose, swung the club around a little bit, and teed one up. First two I hit went into orbit. I think those two golf balls are still orbiting planet Earth as we speak. I got lucky by drilling the shit out of two of them. From there on, it was downhill. Man, I tell you what, I don't know what I was doing, but I was trying to, I think it's like one of the same things you do with professional wrestling. The number one mistake when you start wrestling is working too fast. Well, the number one thing to me in golf is trying to swing too hard. So I'm out there trying to kill that little damn golf ball with that damn driver. Ain't got no form. And when I swing I missed a couple. I hit some worm burners. I hit some that a worm would laugh at. They were rolling so slow. I hooked the shit out of a bunch of them. I sliced a bunch of them. And every now and then, about one every 15 swings, I'd crush one down the middle. But I still wasn't getting the distance that I wanted. So anyway, that was 5 days ago. I went down to the sporting goods store and got me a driver. And I'll tell you about my driver story when I talk to Ted Fowler 361 on Thursday. But I got me a driver. After 5 days of going back to back, hitting 115 balls at a whack, I'm starting to pick up a little bit of form. Now, I'm sure to any golf pro around the world, my swing probably still looks like crap, but at least I'm able to replicate it with some type of consistency, trying to keep that left knee in a locked position and trying to just rotate, from the shoulders rather than trying to get all cattywampus. Because, man, I tell you what, Neil was able to really coach me up from, the ability he's been playing longer than I have and help me out. And when I focus on the things that Neil taught me, man, I'm really hitting them straight down the fairway, straight down the driving range, and I'm having a blast doing it. So anyway, I'm taking up golf. I'll start working with my irons once I kind of I want to spend about another week just working with that driver, just swinging the club. And then I'm going to start working through the irons and picking up that. But what I really want to do is get out there and start golfing. But until I have done some type of work behind the irons in the woods, I'm not going to get my ass on a golf course and just get totally embarrassed. I'll work on my swing, build up some consistency. I'm having fun. If I can, I'll pick up a lesson here or there because, believe me, I could use all the help in the damn world. But anyway, I got a golf conversation coming up. I'm talking with Ted Fowler 361 on the Thursday show. James Ellsworth is coming up, and I'm finally almost through with my Dr. D. David Schultz book. Holy hell. I am the slowest reader on planet Earth, but that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. Before we get to my interview with PJ Polaco, just incredible, about his documentary Credible, allow me to offer you a solution to a dilemma. Right now, it's basketball season, and it's also hockey season. But what if you're a fan of both? How do you watch all the sports? Well, rather than filling your living room with TVs, head on over to Buffalo Wild Wings. They got hockey and they got basketball on, each playing on dozens of screens so that you don't have to choose. And to complete the trifecta, they can ensure you have access to all the sports foods you crave, from their selection of America's favorite wings and any of their 21 signature sauces and seasonings to shareable favorites like cheddar cheese curds, fried pickles, and you'll have everything you ever wanted. But wait, they also have a variety of beers to quench your thirst. All the basketball, all the hockey, all the food, and all the beer you want. Buffalo Wild Wings. Wings, beer, sports. Please drink responsibly.
Hey everyone, I'm Wade Keller, and it's WrestleMania season. So be sure to subscribe to the Wade Keller Pro Wrestling Podcast here at PodcastOne. I produce 2 new shows each week. Every Thursday on our flagship show, I'm joined by a co-host from the wrestling journalism field to talk about the hot topics in WWE and elsewhere. Every Friday, I'm joined by a guest who has worked in the wrestling business, including ex-WWE creative team members like Kevin Eck, talking about Drew McIntyre.
Drew was a young guy, and did it go to his head? And did he walk around like he was the chosen one? He did. And I was frank with him. And I said, Drew, just so you know, this is how they view you.
And PodcastOne's own Christian Harloff, talking about his days working for WWE and Vince McMahon specifically.
As far as the perception of him, I mean, he's the king. He walks in and it's just, you can feel it. I mean, if the force was real, you would feel the force powering into the room when he enters.
And pro wrestlers, including NWA World Heavyweight Champion Nick Aldis, also known as Magnus, talking about the challenges facing Ronda Rousey as she transitions from MMA to WWE.
I'm sure if you ask Ronda, she'd probably say that this moment is the result of hundreds of people's work, meticulous preparation and planning and timing and everything, and now suddenly it's like, go! And that can be very overwhelming.
Just search Wade Keller on Apple Podcasts or on the PodcastOne app or anywhere else you listen to podcasts.
This is the Steve Austin Show.
All right, I'm rolling sound at 317 Gimmick Street. I got PJ Polaco on the other end of the line. We're Skyping. I can't see him, he can't see me, but the recording quality ought to be good enough that we ought to be able to conduct a quality conversation. PJ, good morning. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Steve. How you doing today, man?
Outstanding. God dang, I finally got a good night of sleep. I had my nephew down, a couple of nieces down here. Had a great time. They were hanging out for about a week. We finally put them on an airplane to go back to Texas. So now I got my house back. We had an absolute blast, but now I'm back to my old rhythm. And I just picked up, because my nephew is such an avid golfer, he's on a high school golf team. Man, I picked up a driver. I ain't no good at golf, but I picked up a driver. For the past 3 days, we've been going down the range, and I've been trying to knock the hell out of some golf balls. And I either hook them or I slice them. And every now and then, one of them will go straight. And then about 5 out of 10 go about 50 yards or less. So I'm pretty much the drizzling shits. You ever golf before?
I actually, it's funny. I really haven't. I know what you're saying, and I noticed every time I'm going, I haven't hit a ball in a couple of years, but when I used to go out, I used to go to the range before I'd hit, because I live in Connecticut, so we got the seasonal thing. So at about, this time of year, I would go out to the range. I never was very serious golfer, but it was a cool time, nice time to hang out and stuff outdoors. And I noticed that every time I tried to put any kind of oomph into the ball, it would slice or hook. And if I just tried to tap that son of a gun, it would probably go 100 yards straight. But it's dude, that could drive you insane. It's a very frustrating gimmick right there.
Yeah, I know, but the thing, you're probably like me. I mean, just because we're, when I was running with WWF, I consider myself a professional athlete. Probably you did too, at least a high-level athlete. But and certainly someone with my athletic background, track, football, baseball, all that. Even though I never played golf and I hadn't swung a club in probably, 10 or 20 years, dude, I still expect to be good.
Yes. Yeah.
But if you don't ever play, you're going to suck. And here's the icing on the cake, and then we'll get to you. Sit there and shoot the breeze, but it's good to break the ice with you, man. I was out there, and my nephew, he's 18 years old. He loves to video everything. So, of course, he had to video a couple of my swings. And, to your point, man, I was going out there and I was just trying to crank them. When you try to crank them, everything hurts and the ball doesn't really go that far. And if you just relax and swing through, well, then you're going to have a little bit more success. But whether I was cranking or whether I was trying to use my quote unquote relaxed swing, dude, when I watch that kid swing that club, it's a thing of beauty. When I watch myself, my right arm doesn't straighten out because it's crippled because that tricep repair and the calcium I got in that joint. So it's like a T-Rex out there with a driver. And you talk about the shittiest form ever. It's absolutely brutal. But the bottom line is, great. PJ, I don't take myself too serious. And with the game as bad as mine is, it can only get better.
There you go, man. There you go. But it's all they say. It's ironic because it's from the Adam Sandler movie Happy Gilmore, but it's all in the hips. So there you go. It is all in the hips.
And the thing about it, my nephew's out there, and he'll try to give me some instruction. By the time he gives me, all the different pieces of instruction, I'm thinking so bad or thinking so hard about every single thing I'm doing. Then I'm, dude, when you're thinking, you're stinking. And so
you're all
trying to put it all together. So I'm just go out there, and today I'm going back out. I made a commitment since the driving range ain't too far from my house. I'm always complaining about different things to do in Los Angeles because of the traffic. But this is an easy commute, so I'm going to stick to it. And next time we talk, maybe I'll be hitting 300-yard drives.
There you go, baby.
Then again, maybe I won't.
Then you won't. Hey, I got to get out there, period, this year, but hopefully I will. We'll see.
Hey, man,
we'll see.
Let's shift gears and shoot the breeze and talk about you, man. You shot me a direct message the other day. You said you got a documentary coming out, and I wanted to talk with you about that, see where you was at, how you doing, what the documentary's all about.
Well, I don't expect people. I'll shove it down everybody's throats real quick. I don't know how much everybody's informed, but I went to, as everybody knows, I've had a history with drug and alcohol substance abuse for a long time. And I got clean off opioids about 5-6 years ago. When we first talked, I think when we did the podcast a long time ago, But then since then, I felt for some reason, I guess I wasn't real happy with who I was and trying to find a life outside the business because, quite frankly, it just wasn't paying the bills. And it was real hard for me mentally. It became a mental health issue. So I started drinking. At first, not too much, just casual, a beer here, a beer there. And it just snowballed, man. It snowballed into like 750 liters of vodka a day. And you mix that up with like Coca-Cola and sugar, because I actually hate the taste of booze, believe it or not. I was always a gimmick guy, and what people don't understand, I like pills. I didn't like booze. So, anyways, I thought for some reason, well, I'm not a drinker. I could handle a buzz every now and then. And it had a period of about 5 years, brother. It snowballed to where I was almost 300 pounds of just pure bloat, fat, on the verge of death. My liver failing, my calves were really just, I thought I was going to lose my legs. They were ridiculous. But anyways, so I went for help. I asked WWE's wellness policy. I called a gentleman by the name of Bob Keelarg over there, and they put me in a great place in Tampa, Florida. And in December, man, I hit a snag. I had a relapse, and it's always an interesting thing, and I guess everything happens for a reason. It happened publicly at a show in Connecticut, which kind of made a jerk of. I haven't watched the video. I refuse to, because I could imagine it was pretty embarrassing. But it went viral, as everything does these days. Everybody, and but through that. This guy got a hold. This guy from Connecticut, his name's Douglas Cartelli, and David Gear. They both are in the movie business. David actually produces a bunch of movies that a lot of our friends have been in, and they brought me together with Paige to put together a documentary, basically, about the journey of me getting back on track with my life. And it's real interesting because, we're not trying to make a movie about wrestling. I mean, that's been done. We didn't want to do a Jake documentary too, because I'm not Jake, but it's a human story. It's like, I'm like Mickey Rourke in The Wrestler, really. I got a regular job, I work for this guy's concrete company now, and I take my indie bookings if I can get them, whatever, but it's just a real humbling journey. We're still in production. And we don't know where it's going to end up. There's no big finish line kind of deal. We have some ideas, but really we just keep the cameras on. I have a camera that I keep on in the house, which is really kind of weird to have people. At first you think, well, it's all a gimmick. You pick up shots here or there. But, you get some really ugly things that go on that you don't want to. It's just it's been a hell of an experience. Hopefully a good one for me because, it'll just – I don't know, man, be good for people in my situation because so many people suffer from substance abuse these days, man. It's a real big topic and issue. And if, I'm sober today, man, it's going to be 90 days and 2 weeks. And I don't like to say that because you're supposed to say the one day at a time thing. But, man, we'll see. But that's really what the principle of this whole thing is, man. And that's it.
How long did it take you guys film this thing?
Oh, we're still going, man. It started, Dallas called me, DDP, and I actually talked to him yesterday. He was on his way out to your neck of the woods there out in L.A. He's in the airport handing out gimmicks for his yoga. He's unbelievable. DDP Yoga, man. He's always a hell of a salesman. He's always pushing his thing, and it's really incredible thing. I do it, and that's part of the journey in this film. It's not exclusively part of it, but it's one of the pieces of it. But, it really is. We're looking for something like a finishing point, really, like to see if my life can change. Maybe we get something to where, I go through that curtain one more time back to being somewhat of myself. I mean, we really don't know. There's no end game, which is really difficult. You end up with a bunch of footage, and it's real hard to dissect of what the narrative is, what the story, what you're trying to bookend, So it's really up in the air at this point, but there definitely is, they got Netflix in this and iTunes and all kinds of distribution. So, we'll see. We'll definitely see. And that's up to those guys. But we'll be shooting all the way up until, probably late spring, from what I understand.
Yeah, but you know what? DDP and Steve Yu and the whole gang over there, they do a tremendous job. And I've seen different cuts of the Jake the Snake thing from its inception and the different versions until the final version. And I tell you what, man, Dallas really has turned, and him and Steve and that whole team have really turned into great storytellers and capturing everything, the heart of the matter. and, the highs and lows and everything that goes with it. So, man, I tell you what, I remember when I first came to L.A., I was living with DDP there for about a year, give or take. Man, it was like the odd couple. I was a slob. He was a neat freak, and he was always down there, working on his yoga system. And, all these years later, that this guy still has the drive. And going back to what you said a while ago, a lot of people just kind of get lost once they get out of the business. And, it sounds like for a while you were one of those guys, but Dallas has been able to maintain focus, maintain his drive and his dream. And it's just a testament to that positively Page thing. I mean, that's who that guy is, and he works his ass off. And, I tell people,
he really does.
Back in the day, I mean, to this day, Dallas is one of my best friends, and he's one of the hardest working guys I know. But going back to you, let's talk for a second. Let's catch back up, because, hell, I've been hit in the head with so many steel chairs, PJ, and that podcast we did was a while back.
Sure.
But so what was the demons before the alcohol? What was the basic thing that threw you off, that you got into?
Man, it was really pain pills that started. It started with I never even had a doctor, and I don't like to talk too much, in detail. But I'll just mention that everybody knew it was like the Wild West back in the early to mid '90s.
100%.
And you can get a gimmick here, gimmick there from anybody. So it just started, 30 days straight on the road, sometimes hitting those small shots. I was a young kid coming up, trying to make it in the business, and how insecure things were back then. So, you couldn't complain, and I wanted to fit in. I was a young man in a big man's game. A lot of my idols and heroes I'm now in the business with, and, you don't want to seem like that. It was a bunch of peer pressure, but also the combination of doing it just to do it because you needed to get out there, or else somebody else would take your spot real quick. So it started with the pain pills. Then when ECW came around, Oxycontin started to come out, and that became a real big thing, and it was just everywhere. Again, I really had a doctor, and unfortunately it carried over to when I went back to WWE for my run with X-Pac for that tag team there for a cup of coffee, a couple of years. And then when I really kind of didn't have any employment, and I hate to say it's pretty embarrassing, but it is what it is. When the money ran dry, I went to IV heroin because it was cheaper. And unfortunately, it's very disgusting to say. I have kids, 18, 14, and 11, to put that out there. But, that's a tale of a lot of kids these days. A lot of people, I shouldn't say kids, men and women. They start off innocently enough through their doctors. You hear the story 1,000 times. They get hooked on this stuff, and it takes a real ugly turn. Suboxone saved my life, actually. And, the wellness program the first time around saved my life. And, that got me good. But, booze is so hard, man. Not to give it, whatever, but it's so hard because it's so culturally available. Like I was at my daughter's christening Thursday, man, and everybody's kicking back at the after party, having a cocktail, having a glass of wine. And I know I can't have that one in it, but you know what I mean? Because for me, it's a torturous thing. It's like, hell, why have one when I can have two or three and feel that feeling? And unfortunately, I know I can't. I don't have that control. And it's one of those things, man. And it kind of sucks, But I'm grateful. I'm grateful to just be here, dude. I really am.
Hey, to the point you just made there, you talk about the peer pressure coming up in the business of pro wrestling, because it's interesting, because it's not like you got a bunch of guys saying, hey, man, try this. Hey, man, you got to eat one of these. It's right. Just the fact that you're around so many guys that are doing it. And so, maybe it's a way to fit in. It's not like people are just banging on your door saying, hey, man, PJ or Steve, eat this, eat this. It's just, hey, man, you just kind of fall into the groove. Sometimes you're really in pain. It's just what everybody, I'm not going to say everybody else. It's what a lot of guys are doing. So you just kind of do it to fit in.
Yeah. And, and I should have been a little more careful the words I chose, but you did. I wanted to fit in, and I went above and beyond to try, because I was a young, impressionable kid, really not well schooled in the world. At that age, I was 19, 20 years old. I didn't think anything of it. Heck, I have a hell of a story. When I went on my first vacation, made a little money with my wife and my first son, and she said, PJ, do you need me to refill your Vicodin? I said, well, honey, no, I'm not wrestling, so I don't need it, right? And I got down to New Jersey. We were on the shore. Anyways, going to the beach like areas and stuff. And, get to the hotel and I started to sweat and feel, and I was like, what's wrong with the room? Is it too hot? It's too cold. Maybe the bed's uncomfortable. And then I start crying for no reason. Days go on and then it's like, and then I finally called my doctor and he called it in for me over here in Jersey. And I was like, well, wow, that's physical. That's what's physical withdrawal. But I was that stupid and naive. You know what I'm saying? To not even really get it, or, life was just such a fast forensic pace for me that I was just oblivious to it, man. And there's no excuse for ignorance. But at that time, man, that was the game I was playing.
But to go through those physical and mental withdrawals, dude, how many were you taking at the time? And did you realize obviously you didn't realize there was a problem, but how many were you taking at the time? Because, it sounds like you were at a pretty good amount to have that kind of reaction.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was taking 5-6 at a clip, 4 times a day at least.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And what kills you, too, is all that Tylenol and stuff. That's when people say that, they're like, are you kidding me? But no, that was unfortunately what it does build up to get that. I'd love to get up in the morning. People would think, people sometimes think, that, you take it and you get, it's not like muscle relaxers or benzodiazepines and, that put you to sleep. Like I'd wake up, I'd pop 5 or 6, have a cup of coffee, be ready to train, go, run a marathon and fix the world.
Run through a brick wall.
Right. Fix the world's problems, but, like I said, man, it just wow. Brian James, over at Road Dog, over there at WWE, we talk via Twitter, like DMs and stuff. Unfortunately, he's a busy cat, but he's really been that guy for me in this, because we, there's a lot of good people in recovery in AA. It's amazing the kind of people that you do meet, but somebody that's been through your journey and has that same, been through what we've been through, because we do have a unique experience. It's not like any other job in the world, and it's just relatable. And he's been a really awesome guy, and he's amazing the way he's turned his life around. Because Brian used to run pretty hard too, and I'm so proud of him. And he's really him and Sean Waltman too, man. They've helped. They're always there. You all right? If I can give them a call and put them on speakerphone and just shoot the shit and help me out if I need it. And sometimes it sounds corny, but you need somebody to just tell you, hey, it'll be all right.
Yeah, hang tough, keep weathering the storm. But when it comes from someone who's been there, did that, it means something.
It does, and especially those guys too, and they know me a little bit too, and it's great because I do look up to a lot of those guys. And sometimes I feel like I'm in an island on my own, and I guess I do that to myself. I always did. I always felt in the business for some reason I was on the outside looking in. And I talked about this with Booker T the other day. I mentioned, he was a big fan of mine in ECW, which I thought was cool but rare because you don't hear that from the boys admitting that stuff, which was neat. Not everybody saw ECW. And I was like, well, when I went back to WWE, I was still Aldo. All that main event and pay-per-views in ECW and doing what we did there, as cool as it was for 3.5 years, being on top meant nothing because when I walked back in those doors, I was still that kid. Nobody made me feel that way, but emotionally, as a man, as a professional, I wasn't ready yet to, in my mind, to take that, how Vince likes to say, that brass ring thing.
Yeah.
I still was Aldo. You know what I mean? I was still in my heart, and I didn't play I wasn't just incredible in that ECW locker room that commanded respect. And you know how that is, Steve. That's a big deal, how you present yourself as a businessman in wrestling. I wasn't that guy. I was a totally different cat. And I fell back into being that young kid again out of respect, because I did respect the boys and the business so much that sometimes to a fault, and I'd let people take advantage, quite frankly,
Yeah, but you beat yourself up a little bit sometimes, PJ. Have you ever been diagnosed with depression or?
I have, yeah, and it's something, and I think that's a big reason why I self-medicated, and it's something I work on. Like I said, with Dallas, and he's such a super positive dude, and he helps me through those things. I mean, I don't call him and get into complaining about stuff. He'll just get me motivated, and he works really good like that because he wants to. We're going down to Atlanta in a little bit here to film some of this stuff. And, he wants to certify me to do some of his DDP yoga on the road, to help, because it really does help me personally, physically. And, mentally too, it does something to you. I don't know what it is. I think it has a lot to do with breathing and the whole positive vibe thing. But I have been diagnosed with depression, and it's good to be around. I tend to isolate a lot, Steve. And the more I talk, the more I open up, the easier it is for me. It's like you feel like you're not all alone. And it sounds weird. It's not like you're, in a tough man, alpha male world, you feel weird asking for help or being vulnerable sometimes. And sometimes it can be misinterpreted. So I've always been a little shy about that.
You taking any medication for that?
No, believe it or not, I don't.
But it's just something you're cognizant of, and you fight through when you hit the gray areas and try to kick out, because sometimes the gray areas last a little while, and all of a sudden, boom, you're out of it and back into a gray area. But then sometimes you're just riding fine for a pretty good while. It seems to me.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. And it's something that I've actually asked about medication. And I actually see a psychiatrist, and he's, the guy that prescribes my Suboxone, because I'll probably, unfortunately, beyond that, for my opiate addiction, probably for the rest of my life, I take a very small dose, but I'll probably be on that for a long time, if not ever. And I suggested, well, is there anything that I could, that might help me? He goes, as long as I don't feel you have a chemical thing, I think it's more of your day-to-day rituals and routines. And I do find that if I stay busy, if I have a purpose, that's my whole thing, is I banked so much, and I'm not blaming anything on anybody, but I banked so much of my life on the business. And unfortunately, it doesn't work out always for everybody. And I didn't know what to expect. And we really hit a period of, I thought I'd be working right now, for example, at 44. Still physically okay, thank the good Lord. Business changed in 2001 to where it's never been in, you know what I mean? And the whole game changed. And for me, I didn't know how to, as an adult, work through that. You know what I mean? It's a me problem. It's not anything problem. It's a me problem. But I wasn't mature enough to work that out, because I was so passionate about wrestling, and I thought I could do it at some level for a little longer, and I just wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to give it up, and unfortunately, like a lot of us cats, I live like Mickey Rourke in The Wrestler. I live in the past, man. I live in the past.
Let me ask you a question about the Suboxone. That's is that like Ativan? Like if you drink alcohol, it's going to mess you up or make you violently ill, or what is that?
It is a gimmick where it basically, if you use an opiate, it blocks it.
Copy.
It helps you with cravings and so forth, but it also helps you with your withdrawal symptoms, and something it does with, and I'm doing a crappy job of explaining, but I'll try, like the dopamine, because you really, when you're on opiates for so long, it really messes with your brain chemistry. So what it does is it helps put some of that dopamine in your brain, almost like a synthetic opioid. So it really kind of helps you stabilize your mood, kills your cravings. And if I was to take a pain pill, it just wouldn't work. I wouldn't get sick, Steve, like antabuse for alcohol, but I wouldn't feel it. I could take a handful of pills and it would just not work with the blocking agent. So, I take it now, not even because I do have the cravings. I don't. It's more of a booze thing for me. I crave booze all the time, and I wanted to drink last night. I wanted to drink today. That's no bullshit, but, you got to work through that.
Hey, let me ask you a question, and maybe Ativan wasn't the right drug I named, because I'm sitting there looking at my computer. It says it's like, kind of like a Xanax or whatever. I think you know what I'm talking about. But here's a question.
Antabuse, yeah.
Well, yeah, antabuse. So when you were talking to your wife and y'all were going to go on a trip a while back, and she says, "Hey, PJ, you want me to call in your Vicodin?" And you go, "No, I'm not wrestling. I'll be good." Are you still, that's your wife you're with currently, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you. She knew that you needed those Vicodins because she knew how many you're going through. So how has it been for her to deal with your issues? How long you guys been together? And what's her thoughts on this? I mean, because that's got to be tough on a marriage.
Oh, brother, it's huge stuff. We've been together for 23 years now of marriage.
God, congrats.
Yeah, man. And she's gone through and this is a bigger story that I really don't share much because it's her journey, but she had an opioid problem and an alcohol problem as well. So we were kind of fighting, the battle together, which is really not a good thing if you think about it, for her own sanity and stuff, because I'm having a bad day. It's real easy to tap her on the side and be the devil and be like, "Hey, babe, you want to get a couple drinks?" Nobody's going to know, right? Or vice vice versa. So yeah, man, it's been full disclosure, yeah, she's and I don't like to talk about her stuff out there that publicly, but it's the truth, and she'd admit it, but she's not, it doesn't have that public thing, but yeah, dude, it's been a real hard freaking journey, and just to hold the family down, it's been rough. I mean, it's what it is. We're in a good place today. But, I almost lost her actually last year to a seizure when I was in treatment. I got a phone call when I was inpatient in Tampa that she had seized because she unfortunately didn't have the help that I had with WWE, and we didn't have the money. And she tried to cold turkey the alcohol. And she seized, and she didn't breathe for a while. And luckily, she got into a hospital, and my mom and dad took care of that. And I stayed inpatient because I really, I didn't know what to do. But they told me to stay. You know how that goes. It's sometimes that's a bitter pill to swallow. But yeah, so it's been a hell of a journey, man.
Hey, man, take me through the process. You make the call to WWE. They respond. They've had that policy going for a while. I give them a lot of props and respect for doing that for a lot of guys and girls. So you call them. They set you up. You go down to Florida. How long is that process? What is the process? What is it that they teach you or help you do to get you off everything that you're on?
It's exactly that, man. You call the office, in talent relations, and they set you up with this gentleman. His name's Bob Keelark, who's somebody who's in recovery himself. He's a alcoholic, recovering alcoholic, of course, 20-some years sobriety. And there's actually a network of people, former men and women in the WWE that are part of the network that also are your support team, but they'll sit you in a facility. A lot of times they need, depending on what you use and what your drug of choice is, or if it's alcohol, whatever, there's a medical protocol that you go through, whether it's a detoxification program, or, whatever you need. And, man, they just teach you. It's amazing, the life skills or lack of, because it's a full-time job to be an addict. And drugs are great, man. And they're really great until they stop being great and they turn on you. They really do turn on you to where it's not fun anymore. It becomes, you're forging prescriptions. I've been arrested for that, and not a lot of people know about that. So I don't even know why I'm saying it. But anyways, I've done a lot of shady stuff, and it becomes a full-time job. So it's you just learn to deal with your emotions, man. And it becomes, in this macho world, it's hard for guys. I mean, I've had guys, big names in this business, crying in my arms with regret, guilt, shame. So much shame goes into it because we want to hide with this stuff. We don't want to tell our friends, our comrades, our people that we look up to us and show our most vulnerable weaknesses. And it's crazy, but they teach you how to manage all that as best you can, and to really it's an everyday process, and I don't like to be that preachy guy because nobody likes to hear that, and especially me. I sound like a bad rib when I do fail, if I do fail and do stumble. So it's like a big thing putting it out there like I do. It's almost like an accountability thing, because believe me, I've had this happen where I went to the liquor store trying to get myself something to drink, and somebody after one of my relapses said, "Hey man, you don't need that." And I was kind of pissed off. I was like, "Dude, who the hell are you?" But then well, I'm putting it out there, so that's on me. Publicly, so it's a weird thing, man, but it's almost surreal sometimes, but it makes the fight a little better for me.
How long was your stay down there in the Florida Treatment Center?
30 days inpatient. They offered me to stay longer, and as long as it takes. Everybody's different. And I would have stayed longer, but with my wife Jill having the health issues that she had, just taking care of kids by herself was not a good idea. So unfortunately I had to come home. I didn't come home early. I graduated the program, but I went right in, and again, WWE paid for me to go to therapy right away, right off the bat, aftercare. And
So when you go in there, they take inventory. Take a look. Hey, man, you got to name all the drugs you're taking, whether it's prescription for blood pressure, this, that, or whatever. Yeah. They want to know what your addiction is. So you roll in there. Do they put you on a dose of something else to help you start coming off that to detox? What's the process?
Oh yeah, and literally, I was in such bad shape because if I didn't have a drink every 3 hours, I was shaking bad, and I'd have the dry heaves. My body was starting to reject it, And they literally, from the airport to the facility, the driver actually asked me, before we get you there, do you want to stop and get something to drink so you don't you know what I'm saying? You don't seize or something like that. And I'm like, no, I think I could handle it. I got right in there, man. I rolled in, and they took good care of me. They put me on whatever they, I guess they're benzo style, anti convulsion drugs and anxiety stuff to kind of level you off from the shakes and the DTs, nausea stuff and all kinds of stuff like that. And one of the good things was too, because now I'm also on Suboxone. So they were one of the only facilities that would dose me with Suboxone. At the same time, they were dosing me to get off of the liquor as well, which is very rare. A lot of places won't do that. So they had a heck of a time finding a place. That's why they used this one place in Tampa. That's really, actually, they do extraordinary work down there. A lot of guys have gone through that place, but so they take inventory, man, and they just, for the first couple of weeks, it's rough though, Steve. Ooh,
yeah, but I'm not imagining you sleep for probably about a week going in there.
At least. I mean, you go in there, man. Everybody that goes in there is so beat up. I don't remember walking through the door taking inventory. Wow. I really don't. And it gotten so bad that I didn't make it on the plane the first night. Bob Keelar, Scott Hall actually called, and he was like, Scott, he's, sometimes overboard. He's all, I'll go up there and bring him down, I'm sure you will, dude. But, he was calling me, and I missed the flight because, I didn't want to be sick, and I'm trying to time things to get over to take this 3.5, 4 hour flight. All kind of logistics, and then I was too drunk to get on the plane, and then I couldn't, it was I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. I really wouldn't. And it's embarrassing to say, but it's all true, and it's part of what happened, and it's kind of cool in a way to get it out, because sometimes you live with this stuff, and it's weird. It's kind of, and that's why I guess, again, and I'm not doing a shameless plug, but this documentary really will show. And unfortunately, we didn't get a lot of that, but a lot of the story will be told through sit down stuff like we're doing now. But yeah, man, it's heavy stuff, man. I was on the verge. I mean, I was having bloody noses. My liver was legitimately failing. My blood pressure was through the roof. You wouldn't have recognized me. I was 300 pounds, and I'm a little guy. I'm not huge,
When you go into a place like that, are you socializing with anybody else? Are you trying to make friends, or it's like, hey man, that's kayfabe. I just want to be by myself. Let me try to go through the process and let me get the hell out of here. What was your MO there?
I did actually try to make friends. It was really cool. They had us in this little village, and it's literally a set of condos in the middle of this complex they have, and it's neat. And they got three, the girl side, the guy side. They got three dudes to a room. Upstairs was a gentleman who was been there for a couple months for alcohol, who actually was the medical doctor, the team doctor for the Boston Red Sox. And it was a real big deal. He was a surgeon, real big deal surgeon. And, of course, I can't say names, but there was actually one of the boys was down there as well at the time. So it was really, it was kind of cool. But it was cool because somebody, but it's also kind of like, wow. That's almost like too much information. It's too much at that time. You look back and you're glad that they were there. But at first it's like, wow, what did I just get myself into? Because you're really at your most vulnerable. You don't know whether you're coming or going, So yeah, it was, but I tried to fit in, and I just did I surrendered, dude. I did what I was told. And that's pretty much all I could do at that point, man.
Are they educating you? What are they helping you deal with? Is it scare tactics? Are they showing you a bunch of crazy pictures of people all just messed up?
No.
What is it?
No, man, it's pretty much saying, look, here's what's happened to people in the past, kind of. And I guess you can't say, in some ways it is scare tactics, but it's like, look, for something like substance abuse that's been going on for so many years, we really don't have the best science available. And a lot of people knock AA because really it's a non-scientific thing. And, a lot of times they hear the word spiritual and people get freaked out, because,
right.
that nowadays it's a little touchy subject. But there's no denomination to it. But they really just tell you, look, man, people, we're not telling you how to live, but alcoholics and drug addicts usually end up, in an institution like this, in jail, or dead. I went through all of it. I've been in institutions, I've been in jail, and I was on the verge of dying. So basically, they give you the tools to kind of get your head right, wrap your head around, some happiness, like what, like kind of find what makes you tick. Because I didn't know what made me tick,
Right.
What made me really happy. I mean, it sounds really, kind of corny for God, again, the stigma of the tough guy in the business, but I was never that tough anyway. But it's not the point. But you know what I'm saying. But really, to get in touch with what makes you happy, what makes you tick. I did all this to my family, did all this to my wife, to my friends, to people I care about. So there's a lot of that guilt and anger and shame, because you deep down inside, I think we're all honest, good people that don't want to. At least I am. I don't want to hurt nobody, but I ended up hurting a lot of people closest to me out of all of this, through this process, so especially my children. So you sit there and you're really looking back through what you've done. And it's almost like making good with looking at yourself in the mirror, being able to say, look, I did these things, face it, own it, and move forward and try to put it in the past and to give you the tools to move forward and be a better man in the future, I guess. I mean, it's pretty, it sounds basic and cliche, but it really is, man. It makes you able to live with yourself without, hitting the bottle or hitting a gimmick, because I was very unhappy.
All right, let's take a quick pause for the calls and give big ups to TrueCar. Now, if you're looking to buy a car, you're probably familiar with terms like MSRP. You might even know what it stands for, but what does it actually mean? The same goes for invoice, list price, and dealer price. It's enough to confuse anybody. All you're really looking for is a price that actually means something. Introducing True Price from TrueCar. Now you can know exactly what you'll pay for the car you want, including fees and accessories, before you even get to the dealership. TrueCar dealers will show you the true price on cars like the one you want, all from the comfort of home. And how do you know if your true price is a great price? Because TrueCar shows you what other people paid for the same car you want. And your certified dealers know this, so they set their true price competitively so they can win your business. So when you're ready to buy a new or used car, visit TrueCar to enjoy a more confident car buying experience. Some features not available in all states. You're also going to need car insurance for that new vehicle. Go to geico.com, and in 15 minutes, you could be saving 15% or more on car insurance. That's right. Save hundreds of dollars on car insurance at geico.com. Extra money in your pocket? It may just be the most rewarding thing you do today.
Hey guys, it's MMA fighter Chael Sonnen. Check out my podcast, You're Welcome, with Chael Sonnen, every Wednesday and Friday right here at PodcastOne. We cover the latest in mixed martial arts and everything else going on in the sports world. You can listen free to You're Welcome with Chael Sonnen exclusively on Apple Podcasts, PodcastOne.com, and the Podcast One app. If you love the show, share it with a friend and leave us a comment and a rating review.
All right, before we get to the rest of my interview with PJ Polaco, just incredible, here are some words from our sponsor: flap, pustule, jowls, nugget, gurgle, smear, curd, bulbous, tender, dongle, pork, moist. Now, whether you're a construction worker, warehouse worker, or even a podcast host, if you hear certain words on a job site, it can make work uncomfortable. So at least get work gear that is comfortable. Timberland Pro, work shirts, pants, and boots. Head to toe, Timberland Pro, not uncomfortable.
This is the Steve Austin Show.
You were always a gimmick guy, as you said a few minutes ago, and then all of a sudden you started gravitating towards the alcohol. Myself, I was more of an alcohol guy who dabbled with the gimmicks. So, my bigger issue would have been alcohol. So as you decided, okay, ease off these pills a little bit, get into some alcohol, why pick the vodka? Well, there's many different things out there. You went the vodka route.
It didn't start that way right away. It started with, all right, let's do, a couple beers, right? I'd go down there, get some, I was broke at the time. I mean, this is after I wasn't working, so I get some Natty Ice, good 5.5 per volume, drink a 6-pack of those. But, as your tolerance starts to build and, you're not getting the buzz you want, you're starting to get that heaviness and that bloat. It's like, well, maybe I'll just get a little bit of vodka and mix it with some soda because I don't like the the taste of vodka, quite frankly. So I'd start hitting it, and of course I wouldn't do diet because it just became a mess. And there's, I was looking for the effect. I was just looking. Right. I wasn't drinking to enjoy it. In my head, I was trying to say I was, but really deep down inside I wasn't. I was drinking to get messed up. And I would drink. I was a morning drinker. I'd get up first thing in the morning. I'd have a bottle with me at all times. It's embarrassing. It's really, it was one of the lowest things, man, because it is so available. Like I'd get off a plane over here in Hartford. I'd have a place where I would literally get my bags from, the carousel there and go over and, dump out half a bottle of cranberry juice and fill it up with vodka. And I know it sounds like it is a deadly thing in the game I played that I shouldn't have. Then I'd drive home drinking that thing the whole time, and yeah, I'm a scumbag for doing that, and I could have hurt somebody, killed somebody, just real reckless, dangerous stuff, and just horrible. I was 24/7 though.
What was hardest to quit? What was it? The booze or the pills?
The booze, man. The booze was hardest, Steve, because when I cut myself off, like when I was doing the pills and the dope. Basically, I cut off everything. I did what they told me to do in rehab. Said, get your cell phone, throw it out. All those numbers, throw them out. See, I never people think nowadays, you don't go on the street corner and cop drugs. It was like Domino's Pizza. I'd get on my cell phone, call the guy, 15 minutes, I had the money, he'd be at my house. I'd just walk out in my slippers. You know what I'm saying? It's not like I was on a street corner getting, gimmicks. So it was real easy. So I just threw that. It wasn't easy, but it was easy for me to get. When I got rid of the numbers, it made it more of a challenge if I wanted to partake. It put me into dangerous situations. So that was easier. Booze, you go to any place, man, any corner, you go out to lunch. Right where I go grocery shopping, there's the package store I would go to on a daily basis, as all these reminders and these triggers, and it becomes about being honest with yourself, because you're like, dude, nobody's gonna know if I walk in here and just get a little nipper, But that nip never turned into one nip. Turns into 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, and then I end up in jail somewhere.
But PJ, when you first started on the painkillers and all that stuff, and it got too expensive or they were too hard to get, and so you decided to go with the IV heroin, dude, yeah. What is running through your mind? Because I'll equate this into a wrestling analogy, and it may be a bad one, but it's like, okay, hey kid, we need you to get color tonight. So you're making your first blade. You've never gotten color. No one teaches you how to get color. There you are, dragging a blade across your head. All of a sudden, you're going from painkillers. You're going to shoot up for the first time. Was someone there to walk you through the process? How did that go down? Because, dude, out of all the things I've done, that's one of the things that I've never done. It frightens the shit out of me. So what was that like?
Yeah, and the same thing here, dude. I was painfully scared of needles, but I was more scared. Here was the deal. I remember it like it was yesterday, and this was maybe 10 years ago. I could only, my wife was getting high too, and we only had enough money for 2 bags of dope. At the time, we were sniffing it, like you sniff pills, because we'd never shot up before. But we needed a couple of bags. Bags is a little amount. It's probably 1 bag would equate to 1 pill. Let me relate that to the listeners that don't know what it's about. So then we came down to, well, if we each have 1 bag and snort it, we're still gonna feel sick. It's not gonna get us fixed, as they say. You're still gonna be sick, going through physical withdrawals. So the guy that got it for me, I said, brother, could you just do it for us? And pretty much, mixed it up, and did it for me first time. And, and that was, again, it was a money thing. It came down to, I didn't want to be sick, that horrible withdrawal sick. And it just escalated from that to, I think that's what you're trying to get at, to how do you get to that level? And he did it for me the first time. And then, it's amazing what you will do to not be sick, because after a while, you're not even getting high. You're just getting well, and it's a crazy vicious cycle.
How often were you having to shoot up every day? And how long does that last?
Sure. Probably every 4 or 5 hours. Yeah. Every 4 or 5 hours. And again, it wasn't, that was just to feel normal. Because, at the time, I wasn't making a lot of money. I was hustling family members, being shady with promoters, getting deposits, and all kinds of I'll doing ungodly things. Not not doing sex things or anything like that, but I'd be like, look, I'll come in, you send me $100 now, I'll throw $100 off my price, to get the money up front for my fix for the day. So it was 4 or 5 times a day, and it was $100 a day habit for 2 people now, because my wife was unfortunately in the train too. So it just became a real and trying to, and it's I shouldn't say, you got to be careful what I say these days, but to have young, and I don't want to sound like the father of the year, but you're covering this all up. Like, this doesn't sound, the train wreck that I'm giving you isn't all unfolding out in the open. This is all being hidden. You know what I'm saying? So very well. It's
How long did that last?
Years, Steve. Years. 6, 7 years at least. And it was torturous to compose yourself. There would be so many missed days, and you can never show that you were less than or sick. And of course, if the kids would notice that when you're off, because you're, why is mom throwing up? Why is dad throwing up? Why is he sick today? So it really got to that point of, something had to be done, man. But that went on. We tried to, because then you get to it, you're shameful, you're scared, you're just trying to hold that ship together, wanting to get off, but how do you get off, and who do you ask for help, and how do you ask for help, man? It was, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. I really would. It's nothing, man.
How did you hide it so well?
Didn't really, I don't think. I mean, I think everybody at that period, anybody that dealt with me, probably knew. In my head, I probably thought, I'm getting over on you, but hell, I mean, you had to know. If I'm asking, you know what I mean? If I'm going through, $500-600, and I'm a regular guy with, no lavish stuff, I got a little, an apartment and stuff. If I'm going through $500-600 in a couple of days, where's that going?
What are y'all doing for groceries at this time, BJ?
Oh, just, hitting up our family members. I would work as much as I could. It's like, kitchen work. That's when I got into the culinary thing, just trying to get anything to get by. It was a nightmare, brother. I pawned pretty much everything I owned, anything of any value. It was horrible. It was, real low stuff, real low stuff. And it's just being honest, and it's okay to say today because it's so far in the rear view mirror that it's okay to say today, and even saying it to myself and saying it to you, it's starting to make me a little sick. Like, wow, damn, that was, when you remove yourself for a little bit, you should see that it's like, wow, that was rough, some rough stuff.
But when you come out, you get clean, everything's fine and dandy. And then how long ago was this relapse? And the relapse was with alcohol, correct?
Yes, it was. Man, it's
90 days ago.
Yeah, it was. It was December 15th.
So what happens, dude, when you relapse? What's going on?
Basically, man, it's for me again, and I think you touched on it perfectly. I think for myself, and everybody's different, but for me, it's a mental health issue. I think it's a depression thing where, like when I'm on a roll, like right now, for example, I'm sitting here hitting up a podcast with you. I got this thing with, a good thing came out of this with the movie. Positive things happen. I'm working. I feel like I'm back in the community. I'm doing well. I'm okay. But then, that thing where you're, hell, maybe I could just, I want to, it's a good day to drink. It's a sunny day. Let's celebrate. Anything. That disease is always there trying to rear its ugly head. And I was like, well, I had a show, I was like, well, nobody's going to know. I'll just take a couple of pops. And, nobody, again, you try to hide it. Nobody's going to know. And of course, everybody's going to know because when I drink, I drink and I drink a lot and I can't cover that up. And I made a fool of myself and, but it comes down to just really not being strong at that day. And that's why they say to stay vigilant and do the meetings and all that gimmick. And it sounds, man, brutally cliche and black and white, but it's a Brian Armstrong, man, Road Dogg. He said it. Just keep it as simple. He goes, PJ. He goes, I was in such a bad place. He goes, I could do it. Any person can do it. Just keep it simple. And if you need help, ask for it. Don't be afraid, because we as men aren't. We're not used to going to other people and say, hey, man, my feelings, I feel this today.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's really what is asked of you in this program to keep you sober, is not to do what we do so well, keep it bottled up. And I bottled up a lot of stuff, man. I got so much stuff. Even the shrink said, kid, you got so much bottled up stuff in your head that you got to let it out. And, there's professionals for all that, groups and all that. But, and it sounds whiny. And I hate to sound that way, but really to people that aren't familiar with it, to me, it's like second nature now. But for people that aren't familiar with it, it really is. I think it starts with mental health. I knew a cat. I don't know if you knew him personally. I knew him personally just a little bit. Chester Bennington from Lincoln Park. I was with him about a year and a half ago, and he committed suicide. And he was clean for a while. He was into drugs and stuff, big time, had everything together, loved his family, had everything going for him. And, hung himself in a hotel room, and I think it's a stigma of saying, I think for guys, that we need help, that reaching out thing. I think it's like, it's still looked upon as you're weak, you're different somehow, and it's hard to come across and to say, because nobody wants to be different. Nobody wants to be like, oh, there's PJ. That, you know what I mean? You always want to be just regular guy. And unfortunately, a lot of us that suffer from this disease, we're not that regular guy.
So what do you do when you go on a bender? You did 90 days ago. And so do you have a come to Jesus meeting with yourself? Do you just say to your wife, hey, man, I effed up? Or do you, what do you do? I mean, because I would imagine mentally you feel like you've let yourself down because you've reached a place that you never wanted to go back to. How do you deal with that? And how do you get back on the horse to go back to more stringing up more days of sobriety? You being on day 90, give or take right now.
Yeah, really is that Jesus moment, come to Jesus moment with yourself. You got to say to yourself, dude, what the hell do you want with your life? It gets to that point. It's like,
do you know what you want?
No, I don't. I know I don't want to live that way. And I know I don't want to be that guy. But unfortunately, that guy is a part of me. And it sounds real cryptic. And right now, today, and these past couple weeks have been actually a blessing. I've been in a really good place. But, man, there's hits and misses. Sometimes it's not even a day at a time. Sometimes it's an hour at a time for me. That's why when I said about this movie and this whole thing we're doing, man, every day is really, I don't know where this is going to end up. You know what I mean? I really don't. And it sounds like, okay, this is a work, this is all. But I truly, I know I don't want to be like that. But it's, it really has to do with how you feel about yourself on a day-to-day basis to move forward. So that's it, man. It's plain and simple for me. I know if I drink, I'm going to screw up everything. Everything around me is going to fall and crumble. And I'm going to end up being, I'm either going to be dead or I'm going to, be completely ostracized from the people I love and the people that love me. And that's it. And I just have to really keep that as black and white as I can and move forward. I think staying busy. And like I said, man, that relapse was a blessing in disguise, having DDP call me and kind of, giving me, because he's awesome, dude. Sometimes he's a little too much, I must say. I love Dallas to death, but he is an inspiration in some ways, man. Sometimes you need that little kick in the ass to get you going. And he knows just what to say to me. And he don't know me from, he don't owe me nothing, man. And he pick up the phone. He'll stay on the phone with me for hours. Jake does the same thing, man. And, they're actually, Jake Scott and Dallas are they've shot pieces for it already. We did this convention at the old ECW arena a month ago, and we got them on camera just like kind of over dinner. which was pretty cool. A lot of cool stuff there. But
how was that? Was that a trigger? I mean, dude, there were so many drugs in that building. I was there.
Yeah.
For just a brief moment, but I mean, and there's so many guys from that crew are gone, as guys from every crew, WCW, WWF, ECW, and the other places. But man, a lot of dude, that was a hell of a culture over there.
It was a hell of a culture, and it wasn't as much of a trigger because it has changed so much. It isn't that same. I know I don't think you've been back there since it's changed over. Now it's more like a multimedia center, where it looks like a legitimate place of business. Yeah. You know what I mean? They have like big screens and a nice little fancy restaurant bar area, flat screens all over. You know, it ain't that old place it used to be, but man, the triggers were, I mean, brother, it was, you know, I talk about it to me like it was the glory days, because it was like punk rock revolution. If people are into rock and roll music, which I am, I'm an old school rock and roll guy. It was what punk rock was. It was something different. I felt it was, I certainly wasn't in the start of it in the early stages with, you know, guys like you, Brian, Terry Funk, Mick Foley, Shane, Tommy, and Sandman and them cats, but just being part of that, you know what I mean? That was just right for me. You know what I mean? I got to perform my craft, fans that respected the business. I thought, I mean, a little bit, you know, it was the ultimate work too over there. I just figured out how to work those guys because it was all work.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You just figure out the work. You know, it's actually much harder to get over in WWE. I thought the opposite. I thought, if you can get over in ECW, you can get. No, it was just easy. You just wear the flag that they want, you know, the rebellion bullshit, you know, against corporate whatever. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's a lot harder. It's a lot harder to get over in WWE than anywhere else. You know, that's the tester. But, you know, it was perfect for me. It was a great little testament in my life, and I wouldn't change it, but I can't live there anymore. You know, I was a good hand. I did what I did, and it's hard. My hardest part, Steve, is hanging on, because just about when I'm ready to say, you know what, the business, and I know physically from a wrestling standpoint, I know I have nothing left in the tank to go and wrestle on anywhere near a schedule. That's not what I want. But, you know, this is all I know. This is all I've put my heart and energy since I was 15, 16 years old into. So that's my biggest trigger in life, is how do I either detach myself completely or get, you know, every time I think I'm out, they pull, you know, it's like that old Godfather line. Every time I think I'm out, they pull me back in with some little thing, you know, we got this little thing for you, this little, just enough. And I just need to either, I'm all or nothing all the way in life. I go to the extremes in anything, and that's not good way to live, period. But I need to be in or out, and hopefully this little piece that I'm doing right now will put some little closure. I'll make a little money, you know, put a little bread in my pocket and move into something else. I just don't know what that something else could be, unfortunately.
What about the culinary stuff you were talking about?
Man, there's no, you know, I'm good at it, but there's just no money in it. And that's a whole different podcast, but there's just, there's so many guys, and we're getting down there, I mean, and it's really not competitive and able to really, you know what I'm saying? Like, it really takes, you got to be good, man. And I'm just not there at, you know what I mean? It's like I need to make a little bit, you know, I need to make my nuts a certain amount of money to, you know, and I just can't do that by myself.
But do you have any idea of the next step?
Brother, I don't. No, I don't. I really don't. And it's not for lack of trying.
Is that something that you rack your brain with your wife? Do you guys say, hey, man?
Yeah. We've tried many attempts at little things here or there that have failed because it's like, you know, dude, nobody prepares you. There's no manual for this stuff. I never thought I was going to make it in this business, right? So this was all, you know, to me, this is all gravy, right? I never thought I was going to get a gig at 19, 20 years old with New York, you know. So to me, this is all gravy, but it's also been it's such a cool thing and an amazing thing, and you get, you know, kind of my life revolved around it for so many years, and you know, it is embarrassing when you are. I mean, I have had to take third shift jobs at Target stocking shelves where people are like, yo, aren't you just incredible? Why are you doing this? And I mean, I know I'm not, you know, Steve Austin or, you know, guys that we get noticed on a regular basis, but especially in the Northeast, there's some guys that do know who I am and they do see you, and it comes to you and it kind of kicks you right when you're okay with something and you're cool with it, it kicks you right in the cojones, you know what I mean? It's like, God damn. It's just, you know what I mean? And then you do an indie gig. I'll never forget it, dude. I was wrestling Shane Douglas in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania a couple years ago, and I just came off of working some third shift at Target. Just, again, trying to keep it honest, brother. You know, making money, you know, whatever, anything I can to support my family. You know, and some mark in the front row, hey, Credible, you suck. Why'd you go back to work at Target, you piece of, you know what? You know, and I'm like, oh, boy. You know what I mean? That just eats you up, you know. And, of course, I don't have enough mental health issues, right? I need to be hearing this. But anyways, I digress, Steve. I digress.
So what do you guys thinking this documentary is going to come out?
Yeah, we're looking to having everything wrapped up by the end of spring. I would say June. It's going to be packaged pretty. You know, the executive producer David Gear. He worked actually recently with Kevin Nash, Tom Sizemore, Chuck Zito. I'm actually doing a movie with him and Don Johnson called The Vault. Actually, I'm a prison inmate, and I get to put over Chuck Zito in a fight. I'm not taking it's not like it's this stuff just landed in my lap. That's not where I'm headed in my life. I don't think I'd be any good at it, but just for fun and shits and giggles, because he's the guy that's doing this project with me, the documentary. So I'm doing that. But I think what we're trying to do to bookend this, because most of this I've come to realize is going to be done, and you've worked, you know, with reality TV as well, is going to be done in post. I think we're just going to end up bookending it with, you know, the promotion I screwed up for, that made a big deal, that went viral, that I was all messed up. You know, I'm in good shape. I've been working out, doing the DDP stuff. I'm going to be going to Atlanta, staying with Dallas at his crib for a little bit. I'm in great shape. That's one thing. And kind of coming through that curtain and saying, look, I don't know what the narrative is going to be, but it's not like, hey, I'm coming back to, you know, I'm not going, you know, it's not one of those things. It's like, look, my life is getting better. This is my journey. It's just more of a story being told of what the hell happened, you know, and to me. And it's an everyday, it's an every wrestler thing. I think more wrestlers go through this than people realize, that journey, that real raw
dude,
journey.
I'm with you 100% on that. But hey, before you got into business, and I know you were a lifelong fan of the business, but was there ever anything else you wanted to do with your life other than wrestle?
No. No, you know, and it's you know what's the hardest, you know, this is what is the hardest is it's not I come from my dad worked 50, 60 hours in a factory. My mom did too, blue collar people all the way. But I work, you know, sometimes 40 hours for $300. When some guy will, you know, I'll make that for going out there and taking a walk around the building in a pair of jean shorts and an ECW shirt or something, you know, give me $500, $600, you know what I mean? And it's like, wow, if there's a way, and there's enough balance today in this business where you can be viable with social media, with the way the business is kind of coming into a little bit of a renaissance. There's a lot of places to work these days. It ain't what it used to be when everything came crashing down and Vince kind of gobbled everything up. There's a lot of good places to work, especially internationally. Over in England, they got a lot of strong stuff, a lot of good indies over here. You know, a lot of young kids, too, a lot of good talent, hungry kids. So there's a lot out there, man. And I think my thing would be, I mean, the wrestling school thing would never work because so many guys got their hands in that. And it's such a work. I think that is the biggest work in the world. Kids don't get broken in right and they get robbed of their money. And, you know, when I broke in with the Hearts, dude, they literally 12 started, 2 finished. And they would basically work you out to see if you would even be able to physically make it in there. You know what I mean? They try to get you out of there by making you do X amount of squats, X amount of push-ups, and hitting the ropes and taking bumps before you even did anything. Nowadays, they just take your money and, you know, everybody's a wrestler. Everybody's a worker, you know? So, but I would love to be able to pass down some of the knowledge because, man, I'm one of the guys that got the privilege, I think, to work with guys like yourself, like the Kurt Hennings, like the Shawn Michaels, and to be around so many guys like that transition from old school to the new school. You know, I was there when Daniel Bryan was in Shawn's camp in '99 in San Antonio. I saw Daniel Bryan come up. I mean, there's something I can offer this business. I just don't know what it is from whether it's helping kids out or doing something. There's got to be something for me in the business to at least for fun, because I do still love this damn thing. That's what kills me, as I do love it. And hopefully I could find my little niche somewhere, you know, And that's really my goal. But my long-term goal as a family man right now is just, hell, I mean, it sounds bad, but maybe go back to school for something and do this as a, little side gig and see what happens, Hell, when I saw this movie on Netflix, I should get something. I'm getting points on this damn thing, so we'll see what happens.
Well, congrats on a movie. What kind of bookings you got coming up? I mean, and how many bookings are you trying to stay real busy within the Squared Circle or doing whatever you're doing at the events?
I'm trying to do as many, I try to do the least amount of wrestling possible. I am doing some. I'm doing, my next gig is, I'm doing the WrestleMania weekend. I think everybody in the business is going to be in New Orleans, that weekend. I'll be down there at WrestleCon. I believe it's the 6th through the 8th, if I'm not mistaken. I just got booked for that yesterday, as a matter of fact. And, I got a show in New Hampshire, coming up on the 21st. So not a whole heck of a lot. You know what I mean? I do little things here or there, nothing big time. So, but that's pretty much my next gig. And, just pretty much now is just finishing this gig up, going to Dallas's. Pretty much my Twitter thing is how we all communicate these days, get our brands. We're brands now, but, it's actually quite useful. You get your stuff out there. And, if anybody's interested in anything I'm doing, man, go over to Twitter, check out, at PJ Polaco. It'll pretty much leads you anywhere, credibledocumentary.com, over to the website. New York Post actually picked it up too, the story. So it's getting a little bit of steam, and we just hope that enough people, it's going to be a positive spin, hopefully, on this, and hopefully it is a redemption story. The name of the movie is Redemption and Recovery, and hopefully that's what it's about. That's what it'll end up being. It's kind of on me to see where it ends up. So we will see.
I know you're doing some independent bookings, so you're still active, but in a way you're somewhat retired. When you look back at your career in the Squared Circle, the highs, lows, the whole journey, when you look back at your career, what are your thoughts? Are you happy with yourself? Are you disappointed? Could there have been more? What are your feelings?
Yeah. Huge disappointment. Huge disappointment. So? Man, I don't know how to say it, but, and just bear with me here, but I feel it was huge disappointment because drugs and alcohol, if that was not involved, it would have leveled the playing field, at least for me. I would have been, I don't think I was ever made out to be, I was never that alpha male. You got to be special to be up there. I don't have to sit here and, we've known each other a long time. You are special. Certain guys are special. I never thought I could be special like that. I knew that. I knew my limitations, but I could have been, that good tag team guy, that good middle guy, that good get guys over guy. Could have a good match with anybody guy. I had my taste in ECW, and it was so much fun because at the end of the day, it was like I related to the AWA. It was that third promotion. We were doing live pay-per-views. I was headlining those gigs, and those weren't, putting 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people in seats and doing live TV and doing the gig. And I felt like if I would have been together mentally and more of a grown, mature man when I had made the leap in 2001, when ECW closed and WCW closed. But then again, I always say it, you had so much talent in that invasion thing and so many people pecking at it was so hard, but I got, you get lost in the shuffle, but it was I think was my fault. If I was a little more head in the game and been more assertive physically, mentally, and not been so scared. And, I was so worried about being liked by everybody that I never made the right business moves as a businessman in the ring. I was a yes man, yes sir, whatever you want to do, never worrying about how am I going to get over. I worried about how you're going to get over. And unfortunately in the business, that's how it is. You got to take care of you though too. And I always came in ECW, we took care of each other. WWE, it wasn't like that. You know what I'm saying? Like Paul Heyman would take care of everybody because it wasn't you're getting over. ECW, Paul was smart. ECW was getting over, not the individual. I thought people would just, I'll do good for you, you do good for me. And it never worked. It's not like that. And that's cool. I understand that going in. But it was my fault. So I have a problem with that for me, my lack of going for it, I guess, like Vince said.
Yeah, but you were in the business for a long time. How long? Okay, let's just stop on what you're doing now. How long have you been in the ring?
24 years.
Dude, that's a long-ass run. Dude, I enjoyed working with you every time we worked, especially those 10 shows going back in the day. And, dude, I always say this, and it's true. You were an integral part of me getting over, me getting a chance to do color commentary, doing the match where I tried to get you to forfeit it. And, of course, you know, I end up stomping you, and, you know, you helped me out. But, man, if you hadn't come along with the kind of material that you were able to present me with, you know, hell, I don't know what I would have said. So, like I said, I always enjoyed working with you, and you really helped fuel the beginning of Stone Cold, and I've always appreciated that.
Oh, I know you do, and that means a lot. But but to me, that's cool too for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, look, not everybody's going to be Stallone, or you know what I mean, the leading man. I get it. You know, I just felt like if I played my cards right, I could have still been a guy to help get somebody over. You know, that's where I really wish I would have played my cards differently. You know what I mean? If I was a little more responsible, because I was able to, you know, a lot of people don't notice. I was Batista's first match. I was Randy Orton's first match on TV coming out of Louisville before they had NXT. Right. CM Punk. His first match was with me coming in 2006. I was, you know, I was good, and that was cool. I was good with that. You know, not everybody's, you know, the main player. Not everybody's the big star, and that's cool, and I understood that. I just wish I would have handled my end of the deal. Again, it's not anybody's fault. It's my fault. I wish I would have presented myself and handled myself and took care of my business better. But, hey, you live and you learn, and hopefully I can pass it down, man, you know, to some young cats coming up. That's all I can do, and I still love the business. I still love
dude, you still got a good head on your shoulders, and you damn sure know the business inside and out. I enjoy listening to your take. I've seen some of your videos on YouTube. You got a real good take on what's going on in the business and what needs to go on inside the squared circle. From a physicality question, being 24 years in the business, how's your body feeling?
Not too bad, man. Not too bad. I'm my left shoulder's pretty banged up. It's gonna probably need to get some. My rotator cuff probably need to get some work done real soon. I've been holding that off for a while. You know, I haven't been lifting weights. I have been. Again, it's not simply to put over the DDP yoga stuff, but really I have been doing it because my shoulder's in bad shape and I could barely. You know, I have a very little lateral movement. But on my legs, God bless, man, I still got my legs. My knees are okay. My low back has been okay. I lost some weight. I actually got, you know, I'm starting to get my abs back a little bit. I feel okay, man, from a physicality standpoint. I mean, don't get me wrong. I couldn't run like, you know, a full-time schedule anymore at 44 years of age. You only have so many bumps on your bump card. You know what I'm saying? But I certainly, you know, I could do it once in a while. And I do, man. There's nothing like going out there, even if it's in front of a couple hundred people. And I love just calling it out there because, you know, and so many kids are afraid of that these days, dude. And I never understood that. Like, that's one of the things you taught me in the early days because we had those fun tent kind of atmosphere towns where, hell, I didn't know if it was going to be a kick or a stunner. Or we were going to do like you did that time one time with the damn suplexes, the 10 suplexes, you know, from corner to corner with Jake Roberts. You know what I mean? Like you never knew what you were going to get, but that's how the business was, and that was what was fun. It's like a tapestry. It's like what picture are we going to paint tonight? And kids these days, man, you know, I'm happy because in some ways they don't get the party. You know, they don't party as much. And the drugs are really not there the way they used to be. And that's great. The business has cleaned up. But there's no fun in it anymore for a lot of these kids. A lot of these guys are so, man, they don't know how to enjoy the fruits of their labor, you know, and really be out there and have a good time with it. And that's what I miss is that camaraderie. And I think a lot of the guys say that is being with the boys, being in that, you know, in the squared circle, being in the locker room, that whole unity thing. As much as it is an individualistic business, it is a very much communal thing when it's, you know, when you're one of the boys. So
how is it for
I do
you?
miss that.
How is it for you when the bell rings and the match starts? Are you back in like a kid in a candy store? Are you in heaven, or are you thinking, hey man, this is cool, but you know, I'm 44 and I'm post prime? Where's your head at?
See, that's where I'm right back in there, and that's one thing. And I used to watch you, and I learned a lot from you, man. And I never, you know, put it over. But you know, you were so intense, and you got into that zone, you know, right before your music hit, and you went out through the curtain, and you know, and I just pretty much I get in the zone. I go out there, and I know my limitations now. You know, I know what I'm capable of and what I'm not capable or willing to do these days. But heck, I have a bag of tricks now. You know what I mean? That I know I can go to. I got 4 or 5 things I know I could still do that are going to ooh and out of people anytime. I could just basically say reverse, and I could do something. And I got a little bag of tricks, and I could just, for me, a little Flair Steamboat punch, kick, chop, a couple of little things in there, man. A couple ducks and dives, and then you're good. That part to me is so much fun. That's the drug, the addiction of it. It is so cool, and it's not rocket science, man. Some of the best matches I had were with a guy named Jerry Lynn and Steve Carino.
Oh yeah.
And man, we just go out there and in 3-ways. I hate 3-ways.
I do too.
We did a bunch of 3-ways for the title on live pay-per-view, man. We had a bunch of time, and a lot of them, they were all good, but you end up shit-canning one of them, and we're really working one-on-one with the other guy.
Yeah.
But a lot of the stuff, dude, we were just doing Flair Steamboat. We didn't call anything back there. If you look at it, it's just chop back and forth. I'd do the flippy, go outside, sunset flip, do the bridge, backslide, some of that simple stuff that was so cool. I mean, we had code names for stuff. You know what I'm saying? I'd be like, reverse. I'll do the whirly bird into the deal, into the Flair, into the Sean, or into the stunner. I mean, we're doing everything. So I miss that. It's that being out there in that spontaneity. I miss. I really do miss.
I'm just glad to hear you still enjoy being in the ring.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I'm not trying to get those kablams or anything like that. I'm more of a upright fighter these days.
Well, dude, at this stage of the game, like you said, with a full bump card, you got to work smarter, not harder.
Yeah,
and if you didn't learn anything as far as psychology goes, and you're still doing the hardest stuff available to you, then that's not good. But no, you're a guy that picked up the mental aspects of the game.
Yeah, and I knew I got there when one time Bob Holly and I were working, and it was actually him and God rest his soul, Crash was putting over X-Pac and myself, and it was on Raw or something like that. And Bob wanted to do that Alabama Slam thing.
Oh yeah,
that thing is hellacious, and I've had a history of concussions, like bad. I've had at least 10 of them, at least. And I said, Bob, look, that's not the finisher of the match. I said, I'm not, and Bob's a tough guy, and I always got along with him, But I said, look, I'll take it, but I might not get up. That's not the finish. I might not get up from it. So I got to express myself a little more when look, dude, that's just not for me anymore. And even then I started to be able to feel comfortable, but also to say it in a way that wasn't like, I'm not doing it, because then you know how that goes, like a fart in church sometimes, you know what I mean? But I was very careful and said, look, dude, I'll take it. It's live TV. I just may not get up from it. And I was being honest too. It wasn't that I wasn't willing to. It's just
So how did you take that?
We did something else. We did something actually really easy out of it, and didn't. You know what I mean? Sometimes, man, it's just a matter of trying with some guys. And I was always like, I'll do anything you want. Worst thing ever. Don't ever tell anybody you'll do anything. Because dude. Because I never did that. You know what I mean? It's like I always took into consideration. Okay, my finish has got to be something that I could hit on every guy, that people aren't going to boo-boo face if they're going to have to take it. Stunner was the perfect finish, super kick, stuff like that, because you could hit it on anybody.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And it's not a hard thing to, you know what I'm saying? It's not like you're asking somebody to do and of course, with all hail the dead man, but that big old thing he does, I don't know what he even called that thing, where he jacks you up by the trunks there.
Oh, yeah. The last ride.
Oh my God! I mean, in my March, greatest of all time, one of the greatest of all time. I've taken it before. He takes care of you, but still, that just the height. He's a tall man. That's no joke, brother. You could stun me, cut me, super kick me all day long. That's cool. We're good. But anyways, I digress before I get myself in trouble.
Luckily I never had to take that. Lots of choke slams, stuff like that. And those are easy because he'd float you down, and he really took care of you on the way down. But anyway, hey man, one more time, PJ, before we ride off in the sunset, it was awesome catching up to you, and I wish you the best in the 90 days here on.
Yes,
Yes, sir. Keeping it together. But tell people where you're at on social media and tell them about the Credible documentary.
Absolutely. I'll do it real quick, man. Mostly I do Twitter, so hit me up at PJ Polaco. You'll have everything for the Credible documentary. Also, if you're interested in the movie, the trailer's on my on the Twitter page. But go to credibledocumentary.com and everything else, Instagram, Facebook, PJ Polaco. Same thing on YouTube, PJ Polaco YouTube. Just Incredible. All good. You know, one name fits all for that because I don't own Just Incredible, unfortunately. Some rap star. Do you believe some rapper took that damn thing from me?
Are you ribbing me?
No, some rapper took Just Incredible. I thought Vince owned it. I went to copyright the damn thing, and it finally got the money up, ponied up the money, and some rapper out in L.A. has, or DJ has the name Just Incredible. So, yeah, go figure that one.
What a mark.
Yeah, well, you know, that's what happens. That's a whole different podcast.
Well, God dang, man. Hey, it was awesome talking to you, man, and good luck.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it just sounds cliche to say stay strong, but I hope you stay strong.
Yeah, man, it is, and I thank you. It means a lot, and you know, just doing stuff like this, reminiscing, puts a big smile on my face. And if anything, then I got from this, I just want to share this journey. It's important because if some person, some young buck coming up, you know, it's like, I hate to be that guy, but don't do what I did kind of a thing. You know, it's like the groundwork is laid out for what works for you young guys out there, you know, and we don't need any more casualties of our war, you know, and I hope it stops there, you know.
I think things like this are always good, and certainly, man, yeah, there needs to be some good examples, and there are, like this with the Jake Roberts story, and Scott was kind of included in that, and I'm looking forward to seeing your story because, I mean, man, I tell you what, whether it's the business of pro wrestling, the show business, any kind of business, if you're around any kind of element, you can get yourself in a lot of trouble. So, again, it doesn't necessarily, in your case, it pertains to pro wrestling, but it could, but it fits across the board anywhere in life.
You're absolutely right. It could be anything. So it's totally relatable, like you said, all across the board, man. Absolutely, dude. Absolutely.
Dude, good talking to you. Wish you nothing but the best.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, Steve. It's always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
Every Monday, get your weekly dose of Jay Moore on More Stories. This week's guest, Heather Graham. You know, Roller Girl.
Who's your favorite Muppet? Like from Sesame Street all the way up
Kermit.
All right. Front man.
Yeah.
Good.
Why are there so many songs about rainbows?
Amazing.
Well, it's such a good song, right?
It really is.
Yeah.
Jim Henson's probably like the greatest actor that ever lived.
Make sure you subscribe to More Stories exclusively on Apple Podcasts, PodcastOne.com, or the new Podcast One app. Don't forget to rate, review, and leave a 5-star rating.
All right, everybody, give me the go-home cues. I'm going to wrap up this podcast and ride off in the sunset. Before I do that, I want to thank my guest, PJ Polaco, Just Incredible, for coming out here and dropping some 411 on all the things he's going through. I'm looking forward to seeing the documentary Credible as soon as it comes out, and we'll do another podcast probably, once I'm able to see that thing. But it's a great time talking to PJ, and appreciate him being so honest and candid with a lot of things that he shared with me today. So check it out. I enjoyed talking with you, PJ, and I wish you all the best. Hey, man, ProWrestlingTees.com/Steve Austin has all my Broken Skull Ranch t-shirts. You can check them out there. Best damn IPA on the planet. No doubt, hands down, Broken Skull IPA from El Segundo Brewing Company. And if you live in Cali, we're at Whole Foods and Total Wines. And if you ain't in Cali, check InsideTheCellar.com and see if they ship to your state. And if you're looking to get a badass pocket knife, which I suggest every single person have, check out either the Cold Steel Broken Skull knife or the new Cold Steel Working Man's knife, and you can get them at my new Amazon store. Amazon has the best price on both knives. Just go to Amazon.com/shop/Steve Austin. And I got to say one more thank you to all the fine sponsors of the Steve Austin Show. That's how I'm able to do this podcast for you twice a week for free. Find all my sponsors at PodcastOne.com. Just click on the Killer Deals button at the top of the page, and then click on the Steve Austin Show banner. Hey, folks, I am on social media, Twitter and Instagram, at Steve Austin BSR. And once again, I will be appearing at WrestleCon April 7th and April 8th. And you can go to WrestleCon.com and check out the signing times and all that other stuff. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody. I rarely do personal appearances, so I'm looking forward to going down to New Orleans for 2 days, signing autographs, meeting people, shaking hands, smiling, taking pictures, and then jump on that airplane and head back to the mean streets of Los Angeles. And then I'm heading out to Nevada, where I'm taking my Kawasaki Brute Force 750 on an extended mission, and I am going to ride the living the hell out of that thing and put about 500 miles on it. Keep posted. I'll tell you about my trip. Folks, until next time, my name is Steve Austin, and I will catch your ass down the road.
This has been a Podcast One production. Download new episodes of The Steve Austin Show every Tuesday at PodcastOne.com. That's PodcastOne.com.